Radio DJ Ngizwe Mchunu has been postponed to the 28th of July in the Randburg Magistrate Court in Johannesburg for bail application. On Monday, Mchunu handed himself over to police after a warrant for his arrest was issued after allegedly instigating violence during last week's unrest and looting in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng. He's facing a charge of inciting public violence.
The family, of course, it is very saddened about how the court has handled the matter today. The family, of course, it is very dumbfounded because those who were inside the court, I'm sure they were able to see that this was a Schedule 1 offense, and under normal circumstances or under ordinary situation, when it is Schedule 1 offense, bail becomes something which becomes automatic. But today, we're not able to see that. Instead, the case was postponed for the 28th. So on behalf of the family, as I've been chosen by the family to come and declare that we are very dumbfounded about how the court has dealt with the matter. And if the court will continue to deal with this matter, we're very worried whether justice is going to be served.
The reluctance to grant him bail was based on the state saying he's a flight risk because they have evidence that he left Gauteng with the private jet to Durban after realizing the police were looking for him. Do you know about this private jet? Whose jet was it? Can you confirm that it happened?
I cannot confirm on the private jet, but what I can tell you now is that if I leave with a private jet and I also come back because I see on the news that I'm looked by the cops, I come back and I go submit myself. How do you say now I'm a flight risk? Any sane person can tell you now, if the police say they are looking for you and you go, you submit yourself, how am I be the very first person to run away from the case? So it doesn't make any sense.
He didn't just submit himself. He had posted a number of times that he is evading the arrest and he was scared of being arrested by the police.
We know Ngizwe Mchunu, he has never been scared. We know Ngizwe Mchunu, he has never, it's us who are close to him. I can tell you now, he's an innocent man. And just to make these things clear, it is very wrong of government when people are looting the malls, when people are looting the streets, and he wants to blame few individuals. Anyone who lives in South Africa will tell you now that people looted the malls because in South Africa this government is presiding over hungry people. That is the reason why people looted. The arrest of Jacob Zuma, when former President Zuma was arrested, his arrest gave platform for people to go and loot. Now you come, you charge a single individual. That damage which was created in the country, you say it is out of Ngizwe Mchunu. It's very unfair. It is very political what is happening to him, and it is very dumbfounding. And if such thing can happen in the country where democracy is supposed to prevail, we are very worried.
Do you believe that
it's the last
his
question,
video...
I want to take the last question so that we can depart.
Okay. Do you believe that his videos incited violence, and if not, what were they calling for?
There was no incitement. Go look for those videos where he was doing live. There was nothing. Ngizwe Mchunu has never been inciting violence. In fact, when violence broke out, he was the one who was amongst people who called out and said, people must stop the violence. There are videos there, you'll find him when he's actually condemning people who are engaged in violence. So we can tell you now, what is happening, it is a political prosecution. It is government who is trying to find your scapegoat. And the only thing that he has ever called for was for Zuma's release. And if everyone who have called for Zuma's release, it must be arrested, it means half of this country must be sent to prison.
Earlier, my colleague spoke to the NPA spokesperson.
We'll be arguing that he's a flight risk, and we're arguing that the incidents or the commission of all these offences induced a sense of outrage within the community. And we know the ripple effects of what happened throughout the country.
Is the NPA alleging that Mr. Mchunu had been part of instigating the insurrection in terms of the attacks on key infrastructure and warehouses? And are you able to give us details about the private jet he left with?
We will not be giving those details at the moment because that's part of an investigation, because it has a bearing on our decision to oppose bail. On the issue of insurrection, I don't want to comment on that one. We are confining ourselves with evidence that points to the commission of an offense of incitement to commit public violence.
Were you aware of Mr. Mchunu working with other people in his plans to allegedly incite violence?
That is part of an investigative process that I don't want to compromise on.
All right, thank you so much. That's Advocate Mchunu.
All right, we also understand that, so far 6 alleged instigators have been arrested. Do we know if there's any more arrests made at this stage?
There are investigations that are at an advanced stage in respect of a number of instigators, but for now, according to law enforcement, they have arrested about 6, but those that have appeared in court, there are about 4 of them, including Mr. Mchunu.
Mr. Mchunu from Newsroom Africa, the state says it wants to gather more information. What is it exactly that is missing in this case?
What is missing is information that will help us in our opposition of bail. There are information that is pointing to him being a flight risk, and that information is needed for us to make a determination to what extent are we going to oppose bail against him.
It's Govan again. To which extent, or are you able to say if Mr. Mchunu is being accused of masterminding the instability that we saw in Gauteng and KZN?
Evidence that we have relates to utterances that he made during the public press conference that he held. In terms of masterminding it, I'm not able to comment at that stage because there's a wide range of investigations that are conducted which might lead to more charges being added on him.
It's Ikon again from Newsroom Africa. His legal team is arguing that there is a misinterpretation of a word that is now being made to as though he was inciting violence. Your reaction to that?
We have assessed the video that was recorded during the press conference. We have had a translator of Zulu, and we are convinced that the words that he used amount to the commission of an offense of incitement to commit public violence.
Just perhaps finally, can you at least clarify what is the charge at this stage?
At the moment, evidence that we've collated is sufficient to prove, when the prosecution proceeds, an offense of incitement to commit public violence. That is the only charge that he's facing. But we are analyzing the evidence, we are analyzing the video recordings, and we are conducting further investigations with a possibility of adding other charges.
Right, let's get more on this case. We cross to my colleague, SABC News reporter Maageketla Mohlabe, who's covering that case. Maageketla Mohlabe, a very good afternoon to you. Talk to us about what happened today.
Yeah, a very good day to you, Nzinga, and our viewers. Well, I can tell you that, yes, the media was not allowed to film the proceedings in court at this stage, but I can tell you that there were arguments. The defense team or Mchunu's lawyers arguing that he deserves to be released on bail. He cannot be kept in custody on a Schedule 1 offense, and this simply because they feel that when the state says that they want to actually continue with investigations with the possibility of actually adding charges on the one charge that he is facing, and that is the incitement to commit public violence, they feel that it is actually unfair to actually keep him in custody. But the defense again saying that they felt that the state was giving them a textbook argument, in the sense that they kept insisting to say that we still need to investigate. At this stage, we are not going to actually allow him to be released on bail because he is a flight risk. At some point, as you heard, the NPA spokesperson, Mr. Mhaga, saying that once he learned that he was actually wanted, he then took a private jet to fly back to KwaZulu-Natal after some of the press conferences that he held himself. But Magistrate didn't seem to actually to be impressed by that argument by the defense team, to say that he needs to be released on bail because this is just simply Schedule 1 offense. She said that, based on the possible additional charges, he might be a flight risk based on that fact, the fact that he left Gauteng on a private jet to KZN. And she also asked about whether the state is aware, the defense is aware of the recordings that have actually been flooding social media of Mchunu actually saying that they will actually keep fighting for the release of former President Jacob Zuma, and also the use of that Zulu word, Aikale. And they felt that that word might have actually incited some form of public violence, which is what we saw in Soweto immediately after those press conferences that Mr. Mchunu actually hosted himself. Again, the magistrate saying that it would be irresponsible of me to actually release him on bail amid these investigations that might then lead to possible additional charges.
Maageketla Mohlabe giving us a wrap of what took place there. Thanks so much for that update. Now.